It's Sunday, March the 6th, 2022 at 8:21 a.m. here locally in Tacoma, Washington. This is the One Harrieth Project's DiaryCast number 29, entitled Prophecy. Wow, what a crazy week of experiences. Let me start with Sunday the 27th of February. I reviewed kind of early a quarterly reading that a friend of mine named James, who's known on YouTube as James for Wicca, that's his channel name, he did a personal reading for me for the first quarter of 2022. We're in a kind of a rhythm now of him giving me quarterly readings, which he's been doing for a few years. And what I do is I review them on the first day of the month after the month prior ended, and I go back to his personal reading and see if any of that stuff hit. And what's fun about James's readings is that, at least for the last year, when I get them and watch them for the very first time, way ahead of the quarter that they are going to apply to, they don't make sense to me. I always think, what is he talking about? That has nothing to do with me. I can't even imagine what that's going to be. And it always, and I mean always, turns out to be accurate. I reviewed it on February the 27th instead of waiting until March the 1st. And the why of that is, I shrug my shoulders. It's your guess is as good as mine. But I did. And when I did, I really paid attention to what he said when he was talking about, quote, before we come into this life, end quote. And what he sees is the process from his view leading up to our literally stepping from the spiritual body into a physical one.
Before we come into these lives, there's things, it's like we're looking at our lives on like this graph or something. I don't really have the memory, but it seems like it makes sense to me because I heard somebody else talking about it looks sort of like a graph, but not really. And there's a bunch of categories, sort of. And when I kept flashing onto it, I kept thinking, like, when I was seeing this graph, there's, like, certain subjects you're trying to do better with. And then there's, like, these, almost like these colors, almost. And there's, like, it's, like, what colors are showing up in this subject. Like, for example, compassion. Maybe for compassion for victims, for example. Just for an obscure subject. So you're seeing, like, how you deal with that. And then there's attached to it, like how you handle that is there's colors connected to it, like how you handle it. These colors like talk about how you handle it, what you do well with, what you don't do well with, because there's like these levels. I hope this makes sense. And some colors are deeper and darker, other colors are more muddy, some are more bright and vibrant, and it's all about how you're handling this subject. I hope that makes sense because I almost feel like it becomes very cloudy when I explain this.
Now, when I heard that, it reminded me of a conversation that I had with a family member at the kitchen table sometime in 2019. To be honest, I can't recall if it was the summer or after I returned in October of that same year, after leaving in August for some house sits and things like that. I'm a traveler, what can I say? And my family member was stoned. He'd smoked a few joints. And so he was very entertaining, to say the least. But he always is. He's always more so in that state of mind. Now, I wasn't stoned, which made it even more fun for me. But here's the point of that. I don't know what we've been talking about at all, but I always remember this. There was a point where I was watching him and I noticed a shift in his eyes. It's hard for me to explain it because I'm not sure if others can perceive it, but it is something that I can tell. And it's usually when someone shifts into another personality or some entity is utilizing that physical vessel for its own purposes. And being that my relative was dancing with the elements of illusion in that he had smoked a couple of joints, I was even more curious about that. And then, almost without missing a beat, he goes, what if, before we come into this life, we're standing in just some kind of an open area and there is a bunch of doorways in front of us and we can't open any of them. And we're about to be born and we're choosing what kind of a life we're going to have. Kind of picture this. And he described a scene that almost felt like I was in an arcade or a Vegas gambling establishment, with all the dings and whistles and bings and bops and, background noise and that kind of stuff. But he was explaining having kind of a holographic image of what I would say is like the screen of a device, where you have all these applications and you can pick them like a menu. Now, I remember him using the word menu, and I remember him talking about it as if it were a menu of choices, and that we could just push these different buttons and it would go beep, bop, boop, boop, and we're selecting what kind of a life we want to have. He went into great detail about it, so much so that I'm like looking at this person thinking, where is this coming from? You don't ever talk like this. You don't think about things like this. And this is so rich with detail. Where is this coming from? But I let it go. And he, without missing a beat, he talked as if he were standing in the front of a class lecturing on the topic, as if he were well versed on it. And by the time he was done, he said, now you've picked this and this and this, and we went through the whole thing. Some of it was colors, some of it was sound, like you would pick a certain choice and it would make a sound, and you would resonate with it or not. And when you were all done, one of those doors that were locked would click open, and you could walk through it, and on the other side was you becoming human. As soon as he was done with this, I saw his eyes shift back. And then he went back to the normal personality that he has, that's really relaxed and goofy and not definitely that studious lecturer that I saw moments ago as if on a stage. And I thought to myself, without saying anything aloud, wow, that feels like to me an intelligence that I am aware of, that kind of travels with me, took the opportunity in that particular state of mind to step into this relative of mine, give me a sort of human's ability to consume's view of what the process is in evolving into our next human evolution, if that is the course we're choosing to make. Bottom line, it was my view that my relative was being used as a conduit to enlighten me to the ways that it works as best as can be done using the limitation of human language when we make our selections into how we will choose to live the upcoming life. But the thing is, the next day, that even had more impact for me because it took me on down a path for the rest of the 27th where I thought about that in terms of, well, what have I learned? How can I apply that? And I could literally see or sense how I got to where I am at this particular moment in my life and how all the things that I had experienced got me here and how there is some kind of unseen tether linking it all together. Now, the next day, I wanted to take it a step further. And I had a conversation with what I'll call is the energy that I felt that was around me at that moment. I began to ask a series of questions aloud, just because why not? And they included things like, is there an intelligence here? Does this intelligence belong to this house or me as a traveler? Are you actually embodied at this time, somewhere in this reality experience? And by that I mean, literally could be another human or something off planet, because I keep an open mind. What do you want? And what am I really doing here? And in looking back, for example, I realized that I always follow my intuition. now that I have discovered it in the last decade or so. In that process, I've lost everyone in my life that's close to me. I've gained a lot of new people as well, but they are not family and friends that I'd had, for quite some time prior. My body is changing to calibrate to the frequency that is needed for the next, or so it feels. So what's next? Why am I here? What is the plan for me? Then I thought protection. What can I do to protect myself? Even though that may not seem related to the questions I was asking before, that's kind of how it works for me. I ask these questions and then I instantly feel like I feel something sensorially, like vibration around my skin, heat, my hairs on my arm rise up, or I just get thoughts in my head that come from who God knows where. So that's how I use my gifts to kind of analyze the answers to the questions that I'm asking. And since I thought about, well, maybe I need to protect myself right now, what can I do? Well, I have crystals in a box up in my luggage, but I didn't take them out this time because, I don't know, I just didn't feel like I wanted to go through the hassle of unpackaging them and boxing them back up in a couple of months when I leave. So I thought, why don't I go online to my favorite Etsy shop, which is called RocksandScentsLLC. You'll find the link in the description section. And I decided to see if there was anything on her first page. I didn't want to just arbitrarily buy something. I mean, I know what stones are good for protection. Black tourmaline, onyx. I mean, the list is endless. But I didn't really feel like I wanted to just arbitrarily buy something. I thought, okay, well, if I'm being led here, it's either going to be on the first page or it's not for me. Otherwise, I figured I would just go to my box of traveling crystals and begrudgingly unwrap something. But I'm lazy sometimes, and so I thought, well, let me just try this. She and I, too, have become friends since we started a dialogue back in January of 2020. I had already been purchasing off and on from her since 2017 in the summer, and there was a dialogue that's really personal that she began with me, trying to explain why she was a little bit late in sending me my purchase, which went into a really long personal thing, and we got into the psychic realm. And I got some messages for her, and she appreciated them and said she'd been asking for answers. She couldn't believe it, yada, yada, yada. But, for me, it was like old hat. I was very grateful knowing that I hadn't forwarded this information to someone who was either going to laugh at me, shun me, but yet embrace me instead. It was delicious. So go buy something from Christy today. On her first page, though, she had something I had never seen before. It was called a prophecy stone. Now, I trust Christy since I've been purchasing from her for so long. And I thought, well, this is really the perfect stone to call in answers about these deeper issues. And obviously, it would tell me more about any protection I might need. Even looking at the description from her Etsy site gave me more confidence in my choice to purchase. Let me read you a few lines of what I found there. Prophecy stones are very powerful, fascinating stones, but have morphed, changed completely into something else. These are from remote areas of the White Desert in Egypt and are not seen very often. They are very high vibration, third eye, useful in meditation and astral visionary work. Prophecy stone is also about balance. For those who are too aggressive, this stone will help to calm that aggressiveness so that you achieve a much better aggressive to passive ratio. For those who are too passive or timid, this stone will help you to be a little more aggressive. It will empower you to find and use your voice and stand up for yourself. Each prophecy stone is remarkably unique. Well, that was enough for me. So I ordered it. A few hours later, while using a completely different device, I went to YouTube for some entertainment while I ate my lunch. What came up in my feed was something that I'd never seen before. It was a video by a tarot reader named Minnow. I've never heard of this guy before, but I thought, what the heck? Because the title said Aqua feels like a prophecy, ! Well, since I had just ordered a prophecy stone and then on a completely different device where no Google or other algorithm could have captured my search history, I find a video with the same title that has the word prophecy in it. I was hooked, especially because I'm an Aquarius. So I watched it, and here you'll see the excerpt from that section where he actually talks about prophecy.
You have the Eight of Wands. Quick success coming in for you here. So I love the Eight of Wands. I feel like there's communication coming in for you. I feel like there's communication that needs to be had as well. It's almost like I feel you need to like break a loop here. Is what I would say to you. It's like this reading, it almost feels like a prophecy to me. I've only had this happen to me like one other time where I feel like the reading is like, what I mean by a prophecy is like your soul contract or your story, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like there's a loop that needs to be broken. It's not like a loop that needs to be closed. I feel like this is a repeated pattern here. Remember what I was saying about these blocks of time with the Strength card here. It's almost like you're breaking it free from something. Top row outcome, you have the Emperor here. So the Emperor could be following a plan. You have the Emperor and the Empress. So literally power couple vibes here. And again, it doesn't matter what gender you're attracted to. It could be the same gender, whatever. I feel like there could be like a power couple type of situation going on here. Middle row here, you have the Ten of Cups. It will lead to a lot of happiness. I don't do love readings, Aquarius, but what I will say is if you're like thinking about a person and you're wondering like, will I really be happy with this person? Will this be successful and everything? I would say yes, clearly. I mean, obviously trust the evidence. I keep telling people, trust the evidence. If I feel like we stay way too long in relationships that aren't working, right? We always get into a relationship, the person does something we don't like, we either don't talk about it or we let it go on for too long. We need to be better at breaking up with people, I feel, as a society, right? Number one. I feel like we need to be honest with ourselves, and we need to say, because again, that ends the cycle, right? Then we're ending a cycle of hurting people. If we tell people up front, hey, if this doesn't work, I'm going to let you know right away. I'm not going to waste time. I'm not going to do this or that or the other thing, and I'm going to be upfront and honest about it. Then we can end this like toxic BS that's going on in the first place. So that's what I would say here. But again, I feel like this is something that's very straightforward. Trust the evidence, right? Bottom row outcome, Eight of Pentacles. Yeah, and what I would say here is if this is love, Eight of Pentacles says the person will put in the work. It'll be very obvious that the person will be putting in the work as well, because Eight of Pentacles is like results. So I feel like this is straightforward work. For others, I feel like this is just a lot of happiness coming in for you in work or business or something that you're working on. But you're going to have to, I feel like you have to go for it. Like, no dipping your toes in the water. No star card, your card, right? I feel like you need to dive headfirst into something and rip the Band-Aid off. And this could include walking away from, like, a job or business that you have right now and moving on to something else. It's like you're this close to something. Super powerful reading. This is amazing. So thank you for being here, and definitely enjoy your month.
Well, now fast forward a few days later to the 2nd of March. It was about 7 p.m. And again, eating my dinner, I pulled up YouTube and decided to re-watch a video that a reader named San from her channel San Tarot did for Aqua a few days earlier on the 23rd of February. So I decided to watch it again. Why not? Now, what's interesting is that about 12 minutes in, she actually talks about prophecy as well. And here's what she said.
Because these cards are coming next. North, which says expansion, and the World card. So both of these were, okay, these are talking to me about, first of all, this one is the sky map energy that I've been getting recently. The sky map energy is kind of like being given the map to your future or to our future. It could be like receiving prophecy or like prophetic vision of some sort. It's like getting a clear view farther out than you have had up to this point, right? The sky map is revealed to you. And it, with the World card coming next to it, it's related to your path, or maybe even bigger than that, maybe the collective path forward. You see what I'm saying?
I can't say I was blown away, but I really enjoyed the synchronicity of it all. With that said, let me just share with you that for the rest of the DiaryCast period, I continued to have these amazing prophecy-related messages or data or knowings or, whatever you want to call the stuff that comes my way that felt prolific. I know that I'm turning a corner. It's a significant corner. And I'm being given as much information as I can have in advance without, sullying the potential of the future and my free will in it by the voice of that which lies beyond in the realm of the unknown. And for this week, I will leave it there.